This wasn't supposed to happen. Not her, not now. Because when Aaliyah Boston finally snapped, it didn't just shock the court, it shook the entire WNBA conversation to its core. Let me be clear, this wasn't a cheap shove. This wasn't a random trash talk moment. This was a pressure cooker exploding in real time, and nobody saw it coming. Here's the wild part. The clip you saw, the block, the stare down, the words caught by the mic, that was just the symptom. The real story started long before that ball ever left Alyssa Thomas's hands. Aaliyah Boston has always been the safe bet, the calm one, the smile after the whistle type. The player fans point to and say, that's how you do it the right way, which is exactly why this moment felt wrong. Because when she sent that shot flying, I'm talking erased it, something flipped. Alyssa stepped up, words exchanged, bodies closed in, and Aaliyah didn't retreat. She leaned in. You could feel it through the screen, not anger, frustration, months of it. And the crowd, silent, commentators, hesitant, fans, already choosing sides. But here's what most people missed. That game wasn't just intense, it was personal. Aaliyah Boston came into this season with a target on her back, not from opponents, from expectations. Last year, people whispered. They questioned if she could dominate when things got physical, when the whistle went quiet, when finesse turned into force. And in this game, she answered everything. Bucket after bucket, strong finishes, defensive reads that felt angry, not flashy, intentional. Playing alongside scorers who don't need permission to shoot, she still imposed her will. She didn't ask for touches, she took space, and then came that play. The block wasn't just defense, it was a statement. And when Alyssa responded the way she always does, chest out, words loud, something inside Aaliyah said, enough. That's when the cameras caught it. That's when teammates rushed in. That's when the league went viral. But here's the twist nobody wants to talk about yet. This moment didn't explode in a vacuum. It happened inside a league built on chaos. Inside a season where physicality has quietly crossed into something else. And at the exact moment, the entire WNBA is standing on unstable ground. Because while fans argue about who crossed the line, something much bigger is breaking behind the scenes. And if you think this confrontation ends with a technical foul, you're not ready for what comes next. Here's where things turn uncomfortable, because the league Aaliyah Boston snapped inside of, it's not just physical, it's volatile. Unrivaled was marketed as freedom, faster pace, more creativity, less structure. But what it's become is something else. Every week there's a new clip, a hard foul that looks late, an elbow that accidentally finds a rib, a shove that lingers 1 second too long. Fans joke about it. WNBA fight night, basketball with shoulder pads. But players feel it. And Alyssa Thomas, she thrives in that chaos. Relentless motor, no off switch. Plays every possession like it's the last 5 seconds of Game 7. That edge made her elite. But lately, it's also made her controversial. Because when whistles disappear, reputations take over. And some players get the benefit of, that's just how she plays. Others don't. Aaliyah Boston came into this season knowing exactly what people were saying. That she was skilled, but maybe not tough enough, that she dominated in college, but this was different. That when games turned into wrestling matches, she faded, so she adjusted. More strength work, more physical finishes, more resistance to being moved off her spot. And in that game, you could see it. She wasn't floating. She wasn't avoiding contact. She was inviting it, which is why that block mattered so much. Not because it was loud, but because of who it was against. That was a message to every player who thought they could test her. And Alyssa answered in the only language she knows, confrontation. Normally, that's where Aaliyah walks away. Normally, she laughs it off. Normally, she lets refs and teammates de-escalate. But this time, she stayed. Her face said everything. Not rage, resolve. And that's when people realized something had changed. Because when the nice one finally pushes back, it forces everyone else to question the environment that made it necessary. And fans picked up on it instantly. Some applauded her. Finally, she's had enough. She's standing her ground. Others warned her. That's not her game. Don't get dragged into it. She's risking her image. But image doesn't protect you when games get brutal. And here's the part that should worry the league. This didn't happen during a meaningless moment. It happened while ratings are fragile, while new fans are still deciding what this sport represents, while eyes brought in by stars like Caitlin Clark are watching closely. And behind all of it, there's a ticking clock, because the tension on the court, it mirrors the tension off it. Contracts, money, power. And if you think this fight was about a block and some trash talk, wait until you hear what's happening behind closed doors. Because the next explosion, it won't happen on a hardwood floor. Now, this is where the story stops being about basketball and starts becoming about survival. Because while Aaliyah Boston and Alyssa Thomas were going at it on the court, the WNBA itself was quietly drifting toward a cliff. 3 letters. That's all it takes. CBA. The collective bargaining agreement. And right now, it's broken. The deadline passed. No deal, no compromise, just silence. The most dangerous sound in professional sports. Here's what most fans don't realize. If there's no agreement, there might be no 2026 season, no tip-off, no sold-out arenas, no Caitlin Clark effect, no momentum, a lockout. At the exact moment, the league finally had the world's attention. That's why moments like Aaliyah Boston's confrontation hit harder, because they're happening while everything is unstable. The players want more, and they deserve it. Higher max salaries, revenue sharing, security. But negotiations don't happen in a vacuum. They happen in public now. Social media statements, T-shirts during All-Star Weekend, sound bites that travel faster than nuance ever could. And here's where it gets complicated. Because while the WNBA and its players are locked in a standoff, other leagues are watching. Waiting, Unrivaled, Project B, new formats, new money, places where stars can play right now if the WNBA shuts its doors. And that's where the whispers start. Some fans are asking uncomfortable questions, questions nobody wants to answer out loud. Should players who co-founded rival leagues be leading CBA negotiations? What happens if a lockout benefits those same leagues? Is this all just terrible timing or terrible optics? No accusations, just unease. Because if the WNBA pauses, even briefly, attention doesn't wait. Fans migrate, sponsors pivot, viewers form new habits. And that's why the league can't afford chaos, on or off the court. But chaos is exactly what keeps going viral. Hard fouls, trash talk, confrontations like the one involving Aaliyah Boston. It feeds the algorithm. But it also feeds a narrative that the league is losing control of its own identity. And when a player like Aaliyah, the symbol of composure, reaches her breaking point, that narrative gets louder, which brings us to the moment that really shifted everything, because someone who never overreacts finally spoke up. And when she did, people listened. Because if she is worried, then this situation might already be worse than anyone wants to admit. Because when she spoke, the tone changed instantly. Rebecca Lobo doesn't do hot takes. She doesn't chase clicks. She doesn't jump into drama for attention. So when her voice entered this conversation, people stopped scrolling. What she said wasn't loud, it wasn't angry, it was calm, and that made it terrifying. She talked about rhetoric, about messaging, about how negotiations sound to the outside world, and then she dropped the line that sent shockwaves through the fan base. A deal with million-dollar max salaries, a deal with revenue sharing. And it was publicly labeled a slap in the face. That's when things shifted. Because here's the truth nobody wants to admit. You can be right and still lose the room. And right now, the room matters more than ever. New fans, the ones who just arrived, the ones brought in by sold-out arenas and viral highlights. They're still deciding what side of history they're on. They don't know the decades of underpayment. They don't know the fights that already happened behind closed doors. They're learning the league in real time. And what they're seeing is conflict everywhere, on the court, in press conferences, on social media. That's why moments like Aaliyah Boston's outburst hit differently, because she represents credibility, stability, trust. When she loses composure, it doesn't read as immaturity. It reads as pressure. The kind of pressure that builds when players feel unheard, when games get more violent but nothing changes, when expectations rise faster than infrastructure. And Rebecca Lobo's warning wasn't anti-player, it was strategic. She was saying, be careful how this looks, because public perception can decide negotiations long before ink ever hits paper. Sponsors listen, networks listen, casual fans listen, and if the story becomes the league that's always fighting, that hurts everyone, which brings us back to Aaliyah Boston, because her moment wasn't just emotional, it was symbolic. It showed what happens when even the most composed players feel the strain, when physical play goes unchecked, when the stakes feel heavier than a single game. She didn't start a fight. She reacted to an environment that's been escalating for months. And now, she's at the center of a conversation she never asked to lead. But here's the final twist. Sometimes moments like this don't damage a league. They expose what needs fixing. The question is, will the WNBA listen? Or will it keep pushing until the wrong moment goes viral and something breaks for good? Because part 5 isn't about blame. It's about what happens next. Here's the truth most people aren't ready for. This moment, Aaliyah Boston standing her ground, it's not a crisis. It's a warning, because leagues don't collapse from one fight. They collapse from ignoring patterns. And this was a pattern breaker. For years, Aaliyah represented the safest version of the WNBA's future. Marketable, respected, uncontroversial. If she reaches a breaking point, it tells you the pressure has spread to everyone. This wasn't about Alyssa Thomas as a villain. It wasn't about trash talk gone wrong. It was about a system that's asking players to absorb more contact, more scrutiny, more responsibility, without clarity on where it's all heading, and fans felt it. That's why the clip exploded. Not because it was ugly, but because it was honest. People recognized that look on Aaliyah's face, the one that says, I've been patient long enough. That's the same emotion driving the CBA standoff, the same energy behind the shirts, the statements, the frustration. But here's the crossroads. The WNBA is closer than ever to real stability, real money, real mainstream footing. And moments like this can either become cautionary tales or catalysts if the league addresses physicality, if communication improves, if negotiations move forward without burning public trust. This becomes a turning point, a moment people look back on and say, that's when things changed. But if nothing adjusts, if tempers keep flaring, if optics keep deteriorating, then this confrontation won't be remembered as an anomaly. It'll be remembered as the first crack. Aaliyah Boston didn't go viral because she fought. She went viral because she broke character. And when your most composed stars stop absorbing pressure quietly, that's when organizations need to pay attention. Because the next moment might not end with teammates separating players. It might end with fans choosing sides and never coming back. And that's the real fight nobody can afford to lose.